Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today with Masechtas Nedarim daf Samach Zayin. We are going to begin on the very bottom of Samach Vav Amud Beis by the new parak, new Mishnah. So the Mishnah tells us Naira Hamarasa. So you have a Naira, which is a girl who is between the ages of 12 and 12 and a half, in which Erison has taken place, or Kedushin. So at that status, we say the Avia Ubal Mafir Nidareha. The father and the husband, if she makes a neder, they both together are the ones that will annul this vow. So let's go straight into Rashi. Rashi says, it's only in Naira Shehi Bershos Avia, that she's still in the father's Rishos. As it says in Masechtas Ksuvas Avzaki B'Kedushi Bita V'Masi Yodeha V'Masiyasa, and it says V'Faris Nedereha. So when it comes to being made for neder, the father's still in the picture. Bizmachi Naira. So, and that is going to be derived from Psukim. Psukim the Ran. I feel Nedarim Shenodra Ba'oida Panuya. So when it comes to a Naira Marasa, even if it's a neder that she made before she was even engaged, it's nonetheless the Oris Mayfair B'Koidman. The din is that the husband, the man, can annul such nedarim, even though they are bekoidmin. They are things that took place before he was in the picture. When it comes to the husband, he has ability to be made for bekoidmin, but together with the partnership of the father. And then the Ran says, Lafuki boy geras. It's excluding a woman who is now 12 and a half, shein lavia reshusba. They are made for nidareha. Once a girl is already a bogeres, then the din is that the father has no rishos, and therefore it's the husband that is mefer. But oris nami below shitfoseha da'av lo matzi mefer, and an oris also without the partnership of the father cannot be made for himself. Abahu din nami debastid alav shana shenedereha nidbokim da'av oris mafir nedereha. So the Ran brings down, it's really not the case that it's a girl who's dafka a naira, because even if she's already 11 years old, the din would still apply. Okay, so both of them need to make to annul the vow. What happens as we continue to Samach Zayin Amud Aleph? What happens if Hefer Ha'av, the father annuls it, and Rashi says that's B'yom Shemoi, on the day, it's brought in Parshas Matos, that on the day in which he hears it, that's when the father has a right to annul it. However, lo hefer a baal, but the husband did not do it. Says Rashi, el shosek me'es le'es. He remained silent for a 24-hour period of time. So only one of them was mefer. It was the father that did it, but not the husband. Or hefer a baal v'lo hefer av einu mufar. So it's not considered to work. Even though one of the two parties did the hafara, it's necessary that both of them do it. V'ensar chloimer. Says the Mishnah, there's no even need to have to even tell us shikim echamehen, that if, let's say, one of them affirmed the neder, not even that they were shosuk, but they actually said, yes, this neder sounds good to me, then certainly the other party, even if they're mefer, will not work. Tomorrow. So hainu reisha, for the Gemara, l'chayra, this sounds like what the reisha is saying. Avia ubal mafir nidareha. It says it beferish. Now the fact that it says that both of them do it, so it's obvious that they're both necessary. And therefore it doesn't seem to have any need for the Mishnah to then mention if only one of them does it, it's not enough. It sounds pretty clear from the Reisha that both of them are needed. So the reason why it says in the Seif is to elaborate what the Reisha says, or Perushikam Afarish, as the Gemara says often, like Shita Rav Shimon usually says that the Reisha, you would maybe make a mistake and think it means that either of the two parties can be mefer and it would work. That's when the Sefer clarifies and says, no, they both have to be mefer. So Lamula Misna, why does it need to mention? Once you already know that one person was mefer, but the other one said nothing, he didn't agree to the neder, but he said nothing. Still, that hafar is nothing. So kiyim echamehem lamuli. In fact, that's exactly what the Mishnah says. A lot of times, when we have such a kasha, sometimes that we end up saying chasur mechshav hachitani ein tzarech loimer. So the truth is, you can just say that it's an ein tzarech loimer, and you're right. It really doesn't need to mention it. There's really no chiddush. But then why does it have to say it then? So tzrich l'misni, we still want to mention this situation where one of the people confirmed the neder, and that doesn't work. Because let's say again that one person annulled the vow, let's say the husband, and then the father said, no, this neder that my daughter made is fine. And let's say the one who was Mekayim retracted, Benishal al hakamato, and he ends up retracting. He went to a chacham to revoke the hakama, his initial acceptance of the neder. So maudatema my deoiki ha akri, that which he did was completely uprooted. Kamashmalan de mafirin shnehin bavasachas, that it has to be done at the same time. We'll see what bavasachas means, not literally at the same moment, but it can't be that one person was mekayim the neder, even if he removes the neder through a chacham, he removes his hakama, his agreement that it was accepted. He says, no, I'm not agreeing to it. So maybe he should drop down to being parav, and maybe then he could be able to be mefer. No. So here again, now you have both the father and the husband. Maybe he can do a hafara, so maybe it will be valid because he did a hakama, then he does a hafara. So you're saying, no, he can't do that. Okay, let's look at the Ran. Kiyam echad mehem sricha misnis. So bitmia. So fret the Ran. A lot of times that's what it says anyway. So like, what's the whole question? As I mentioned, that's usually when it comes to things which are not comparable to one another. It's the same thing. So if it's the exact same thing, there's no need to mention it. That's how the Ran explains why it's a kasha. So skipping down a few lines. In the Ran Divra Maska V'Chozer, so the ademafirin shnehen b'vasachas. It's necessary that they need to be made for the same time. Koloimer shlo yafsik bein echad lechaveroi. There cannot be a separation between one and the other. Davar shu ma'akev hafara kagon hakama dahai. So once the hakama took place, that already is so substantial that it doesn't work anymore. B'sar shihu mafirin achshav shneim b'vasachas. So according to the Ran, he actually says, interestingly enough, that you can do hafara now b'vasachas. So anything, basically, according to the Ran, which not everyone agrees to this, that the hafara could work. Okay, if they do a hafara b'vasachas, if they both do a new hafara. Umiyu b'vasachas lav davka, says the Ran. The afil mefer zeh shachar v'chaver arvis. Sagi, that's good enough, even though there are different times of the day. Kol shlo hisik min time davar shuma akev hafara. As long as you didn't have this wedge. Skipping about 5 lines. So the hiksha harash mazal. Amayam rina the hafara kamaisa batala. Why do we say that the first hafara, this guy who did an actual hafara, that we say it's batal because this other guy was mekayim it, but it was removed. The holobasa the achel al hakamasai, after he already had the hakama, his establishment of the neder removed, right? Kivan the chacham oikras a neder mikarai, so it's like it was removed. Sorry, hiu ki'ilu lo hekim klal. It's like he never did any hakama. It's like he never validated or confirmed the neder, as we see in the beginning of Masechtas Kedushin. Well, not necessarily the beginning, actually the beginning of the second parak. A mekadosh says the isha, person marries a woman almanash she'ein lehen nedarim. She doesn't have any nedarim. Nimsu lehen nedarim ein mekadeshes. So we say in that case it's not a good kedushin. So halcha lefnei chacham. Let's say they went in front of a chacham, they had tira, and removed those nedarim harizim kedeshes. It's a good kedushin. Why? Even though it was done later, but it works because it's ki'ilu like there was no nedarim afterwards. There was never any nedarim at all. So it's still a kedushin because it's like retroactively never took place. Hachanami fret the rashba, the basa the itchil, after he already removed the hakama, next to l'haigamer ki'ilu lo hekim oilam. So the question is, why is it necessary for the first person to do another hafara? L'didi lav kushi klal. The kedushin beitashu masa gomer. When it comes to kedushin, he gave masa kedushin to her. Afagav the cholzman shlo hetiro l'chayil. As long as the neder was not removed, the kedushin is not chal. However, ki hetira, once that obstacle is removed, that she no longer has nedarim, Amrin, we say the Gali Milsa the Mikara Chayil, that it works retroactively. Abu Hafara the Mihani Kalashala Tfei. When it comes to this situation, you have two people, so it's necessary that they both do it. So therefore, even the Hafar of one is very weak. The Api Navshala Midihi, because doing it by yourself is nothing. Elam Betsirufa the Idach. It's only when they combine does the Hafaras work. If they're not fit to be mitzaref together, as it brings down this case. So question 9, the chiluk between this and kedushin is a ma'aseh gomer, that it's an absolute kedushin. The only obstacle is that you made a condition that she shouldn't have nedarim. So once the nedarim are removed, so then the kedushin is chal. Over here, the hafar sa'av, it also requires the husband, and that's a masa kolosh. It's weak, and therefore, unless they were mitzaref together, it doesn't do anything. And therefore, since one of them did this hakama, even though it gets removed, still the hafara would have to take place again. It wouldn't be enough for this second person who did hakama to do another hafara. Well, but pashtus, that's the reading of this Ran. Okay. All right, weiter. So how do we know that this is the case? How do we know that they both have the right? Actually, before we see that, let's actually look at question 12, TA12, before we get ahead of ourselves here. Question TA12. Nara hamarasa v'yavabal mafir nedareha hefer avol hefer abal eno mefer so lamai hutzrach lashminan. B'kaim echad di efshel hefer. So he says, efil hefer echad v'kaim echad v'nishal halkamasa, and he removes it l'mahani hafaras harishayin d'beinan mafir and shnei b'vas achas. So it's beferish gemara. Okay. All right. So again, how do we know, Menolan, how do we know, for the Gemara, that when it comes to a girl who's between 12 and 12 and a half, or as the Ran said, even at 11, when she has erison, kedushin was performed, that at that stage, if she makes a neder, or even if she made a neder as a penuya, as the Ran says, because an oris could be made for a bekoinman. So Amar Rabbo, Amar Krav, Im hayu sel ish, a person, and if it is to a man, and it turns out that she has nedarim upon her, so we learn out from this pasuk that both the husband and the father removed the nedarim. So Ema, Haikrab, and Asuiksiv. I know this pasuk is talking about Erison. Maybe we can talk about they're completely married. Maybe the only time the husband has a right to actually remove her nedarim is dafka ben Asuin, but not by Erison. No, Imishim Nesua Krach Reiniksiv. If it's Nesuin, we already have a pasuk. The pasuk says V'im Beis Isha Nadara, that if, let's say, she made a neder in the husband's home, so in that situation, so the husband has a right to be made for a nedarim. So if you have a pasuk that talks about Nesuin, that the husband be made for a nedarim, so this pasuk of the Im Hayusil Ish, L'chayra is a double pasuk that's talking about even Mishas Erison, the husband has a right to be made for a nedarim. So Ematir Vayim and Nesua. Maybe both psukim were also talking about Nesuin. And it's not a riot that the husband can do so B'shas Erison. So why did he to tell me two psukim? So maybe because you would think that any neder she made before when she was single, the husband can't be made for that neder. Maybe that's what's come to tell, even though we actually hold Abal is made for B'koyman. So let's look at the Ran over here. It says the Vav Maisav al Inin Rishon El Mineksiv Hashem Yislach La Kihini Avia Osa. The pasuk says Ubasreiksiv Im Boyam Shemo Isha. At the time that the husband hears it, Yani Yosa Lemor Shaviu Bal Mafir Nidra V'asi shape barusa. It makes sense. The kivan de barusa lo yatzim rishus av, because b'shas erison she hasn't left the father's rishus yet. It was nesuin, then the father would. The case of this wouldn't be talking about a case of nesuin, because then why would we apply this pasuk which has nothing to do with the father because she's left the rishus av? Dinu shlo for oris l'chude. Fine. So fine. All right. So maybe the reason why we have to have these two psukim is to tell you the din she'ein habal mefer b'koydim. As we continue to samach zayin bebeis, v'lav mamela shemat mina. So the question is, couldn't we just figure that out on its own? So iboy sema de havaya kedushin mashma. So one answer is the fact that the pasuk uses the word v'haya in this pasuk im hayu siyel isha. So that is referring to a language of kedushin. That is typically the language that a person uses. That's one shot. Aim. So the Gemara says aim av l'chudi mefer. So how do we know that maybe the father himself can be mefer? So on this we have to see the Ran. So the Ran says like this. V'boy sema havi kedushin mashma hilkach al karchach. Well, Moses Amrit Arusa Al Mefer. It can't be that the father himself is Mefer. The Havoya Kedushin Mashma. It's talking about marriage. Al Bebenar Hamarasa Sarch Baal. It's talking about with a husband. It's not with a husband, with the father himself. Skipping a few lines. Alma Havoya Nami Nesuin Mashma. Vikiman Shekain name of the Ben Kedushin Ben Nesuin of you Baal Mafir Nedarim. Maybe this is the kasha of the Gemara, is that maybe even when it comes to the Nesuin, the din is that the father is made for the Nedarim. So lace the pshita one the kivan the menisa shuv ein lavi rishusba. So that you can't say because it's the davar pashit that when a person is already married completely, the father has no more rights. So ema avu chude mefer. Actually, this is the question. Says the Ran. The orus the kasav achmana, when it says orus is loimers to tell you sheim hekim hukam, that all husbands maybe can do is block the father's hafara by doing hakama, establishing the neder. Maybe this, and not that the Baal also needs to be mefer. Maybe he gets the smallest of rights. In other words, maybe only the father has the right to do the hafara. That's what it means. So what does the husband have the right to do? That even if the father is mefer, maybe the husband can do hakama of the neder to be able to remove the father's hafara. But if, let's say, the husband doesn't do anything, he's shosik, he's silent, maybe in that situation, the hafara of the father is enough to remove the neder. Why do we need both the father and the husband? Maybe the only right that the husband has, is dafka to go against the hafara of the father, and that the husband has a right to do hakam. But if he doesn't establish the neder, maybe it's a neder. The neder is void. It's by the hafar of the father. So why do you have this pasuk that says the father can hold her back? If you want to tell me that at the time of Erison the father does the hafar himself, so shalo b'makom oris meboy. If it's a case where there's no oris, like for example, she's a penuya, so then there's no question she should be able to do so. So therefore, this whole pasuk otherwise would not is not logical. So if you look in the Ran, mashma'usa the kroy the oris ikr. The mashma'us of the pasuk is that we're talking about an oris, but av tafilo, and that the father is secondary. Kivan the tarch rachman lashmiina the av mefer koydem. The fact that it says the father has a right to do the hafara before the engagement, must be the afterwards nafkum reshuse. She has somewhat left his reshus. Skipping 3 lines, that if, let's say, the father does hakama after they get married, it doesn't work. That you don't need a pasuk for. As we said, if the father does hakama at the time of her nisuin, that certainly doesn't work. There would be no chiddush to tell us that, because we understand that once she has left the father's rishus entirely and nisuin has taken place, it's a double pasha. The father does not have the ability to do hakama. He cannot hold to or be made for the neder anymore, because he no longer has any rishus. So it must be only talking about the time of erison. So for the Gemara, boy orus, maybe the father needs the orus, but orus l'chudi mefer, but the orus himself could be mefer. In other words, if the father is mefer, that's not enough. He needs the husband. But if the husband is mefer, maybe that's enough. Maybe he doesn't need the father. In our Mishnah said he needs to do both. You need the father and the husband. So why need this pasuk? That he has the ability to establish this neder. So im kain base isha nedar lama lamai kasav kavachaymer. You can learn a kavachaymer. Maba makam ab arus mefer l'chude. If you want to tell me in a place where there's a father, the arus can be mefer by himself. So shaloba makam av. Once they're completely married, miboy certainly. So ema im base isha nedar lamai shin habal mefer b'koinman umine arus mefer b'koinman. So we actually do say that the baal could be made, the husband could be made for bekoitman. Okay, we're going to stop there. Let's see question 12, TB12. Katana, Naira, Boigeris, Harusos. Koidim higizman, mi mefer nidarehem. So a katana, the av. A Naira, if she's a penuya, and bebesavia, father. If it's Nar Hamarasa, our Mishnah says Aviu Bala. If it's by Bogeris, only the Baal can be Mefer. But the Av cannot be Mefer Bebegger. Let's see if what I said was absolutely the case. So let's look. That was question 12. Katana Nair Bogeris Arusos. Okay, that's the question. So the answer is Katana Mibas Yud Aleph Nidareha Nidbokim. That's right. So that's what it says over here. That not only when she is 12, but even the time that she is still already 11 years old. So then both of them at the time of erison, they would both need to be made for it. V'chein naira aviu ba mafir nidareha. Bogeres in echemehen made for nidareha. When a woman's a bogeres, then the father no longer has the ability to be made for her nidar. Madkab.